Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television from our corporate headquarters in Lagos State, Nigeria. I am Henry Igwebike. Let's kickstart today, this very beautiful morning, with what we have coming from our newspapers. We have 4 newspapers to see through: the Guardian newspaper, Punch, Daily Trust, and the Vanguard. I hope that we have more than enough time to look at all that we have for today. And after that will be our conversation this morning. Do well to be part of what we do. Have a say in what we say. You can find us, reach us when you visit us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Very so honored to have joining me virtually is Gbenga Ayonuga, public affairs analyst, development communicator. So see through all that we have. Good morning to you, Mr. Ayonuga, and thank you so very much for your time.
Good morning to you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Having you. So let's kickstart today with the Vanguard newspaper. We have a litany of interesting stories. On the bottom strip, we have Kano. Governor Yusuf meets Tinubu, defects to APC today. Lots of people will say, what is the cause of this again? Kano is one state that has no issues. Even if they have a party called ABC, Kano will still vote for ABC. So why is Kano defecting to APC? We do not know. But we have other interesting stories on the top strip. The DSS rearrest Malami after release from Kuje prison. You equally have other stories. IMF upgrades Nigeria's 2026 growth outlook to 4.4%. And we have anti-Tinubu post. Federal government amends the charges against Showore, delist Facebook and X. And we have a picture there, a very gory one, of the incident that happened yesterday. A tanker, a mishap accident in Lagos, and Nigerians coming to scoop fuel. Very gory at a time like this, despite all the awareness we have. Mr. Ayonuga, I love us to speak to this issue. It's all over the place, and it's really not telling a good story of a city like Lagos in 2025, despite all the awareness that we have. What do you think is the cause of this?
Well, I think people are just basically hell-bent on destroying the legacies of Lagos, and that is why I think Lagos must return to the fashionable era where unwanted elements must be gotten rid of from the city. Because no matter what the government does, with all the awareness, with all the efforts of government, if we continue to have drivers from out of Lagos who know that they are not feeling well, they are feeling sleepy, they are tired, yet they will go behind the wheel and then cause accident like this, or they will know that their vehicles are rickety, they will still go behind the wheel and say, I will manage it, and cause all this kind of accident. Most times when government brings the sledgehammer on them to enforce the law, we say, oh, Lagos is too tough, Lagos is too rigid. But we cannot but do the needful to make sure that all these unscrupulous, because for a tanker to have fallen, there would have been a lot of factors responsible, ranging from faulty tanker in itself. It is not about the road, it's about the vehicle, it's about the driver. And for the people who are scooping fuel, you won't say that there is not enough awareness, especially in a city like Lagos, where government has constantly made efforts to ensure proper awareness on handling this kind of situation. And you will see that in most instances, especially like this one in question, the rescue team had gotten there in a jiffy to cordon off the area. But despite that, people still go out to risk their own life. And so for me, I believe that having done its own part, because it is good to blame the government when the government is at fault, but when the people are at fault, we must do the needful. Even if you are a negotiator and you are caught in some of these unscrupulous and unwanted vices, maybe you should be sent to a rehabilitative kind of jail where you go and learn for 2 years what it means to be a good citizen, so that you can come back and contribute to the development of the state. And if you are not from the state, you should be sent back to whatever backward village you came from, so that we will not continue to deal with all these things. Because you see, over time, and it's not just in Lagos, even in Abuja, in Ogun State, government have made a lot of effort to educate people that when a tanker falls, that it's flammable and therefore they should take safety precautions first. And you see, when you say it's about poverty, it's not about poverty, it's about greed. It's about greed because among the people you see scooping well are people who are even well off, who just, there's this thing of the excitement of crime, that I won't be caught, I will be caught. It pushes them to join in doing some of these things. And if people are not made example of, if tough stands are not made by the government, then the government will have itself to blame because at the end of the day, we'll have a crisis in our hand where, thousands of people will die as a result of exclusion, and then we will now be putting the blame on the doorstep of the government.
Yes, it's actually quite interesting, Mr. Ayonuga, that you're saying in your opening statement that unwanted elements should be ousted out of Lagos. Like all of the persons under reference here are not Nigerians. Every Nigerian has the right to stay wherever they feel like staying, do their business wherever they feel like doing it in the confine called Nigeria. So I'd love you to maybe correct that. Correct that.
Your right terminates the moment you break the law.
Yes. So
there are rights. There are rights you have, and for every right you have, there are duties that are expected of you as a citizen. And when you break the law,
yes, you should not be sent out of the state, isn't it?
The government has rights to say, I don't want you in my state.
Really? Is it imbibed in our constitution? Because I wouldn't want us to skew some things now and begin to maybe misconstrue our constitution at this point.
If you are a threat to the larger security of my state, I go and record it and save it so that I'm not one of those who say, oh, that time when I spoke, it was the level of my knowledge. People need to be made accountable. You understand? And when I say people, sometimes a lot of people will automatically think that I'm referring to a certain set or region or people. But among those who are speaking well, there are Yorubas, there are Hausas, there are Igbos, from even as close as Ogun State, as close as Oyo State. So it's not a matter of trying to attack any tribe or people. If you can't keep the law that will make the life and property of other people in the state safe, I, as the governor of the state, have the right to send you back to your village. Let the governor of your state go and handle you.
Well, that is actually we'll go to court, debatable at this point because
we'll be handling the case in court, but at least you will not be in my state.
Yes. So, of course, let's take a look at the socio-economic issues here, because you did mention, that the same thing that we had observed yesterday in Lagos is still obtainable in Abuja, in other parts of the country. But don't you think socio-economic issues are to be blamed? Because if this were to have happened in Algeria or Morocco, you wouldn't see the same thing happening, or people coming to scoop fuel. So don't you think socio-economic issues as a result of deficit of leadership could be blamed for some of these things?
How many of it that happened in Algeria have you heard of? And you're not having heard of it, does it mean that it doesn't happen in Algeria?
But not scooping of fuel. Not scooping of fuel.
The scooping of fuel happens everywhere, even in Algeria, even in the US. It does happen. The difference between them and you is that while Nigerian journalists will pounce on every story just to make government look bad, and on the long run, making the country as a whole, not even the government, look bad, thereby giving us bad image out there. Algeria will censor the image its press sends out. America will censor the image its press sends out. I will give you a proper example. Back in 2014, between 2014 and 2016, I can't remember the exact date again, there was a debate on the floor of the European Parliament where one member of the European Parliament, I think from Ukraine, went and attacked another one from maybe Poland. I can't remember clearly now. You know, BBC, BBC Sky News, and I think CNN, they were airing that proceeding live. And, you know, all of a sudden, this member of parliament came and punched the other member of parliament over there. Immediately, there was an exchange of blow. BBC cut off the feed. CNN cut off the feed. I could quickly change to Sky News to see whether I will still see the feed. All of them cut off the feed. It is not that the fight wasn't ongoing or that it has been stopped, but because they censor the kind of image, they have an image that they want to project to the world, and that does not feed into that image that they want to project into the world. But all the time when we've had fights in our State House of Assembly, you will see Nigerian journalists, they want to have the best angle, and they will post everything.
Well, that is our job, Mr. Yonuga. I think it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility as people in the media to speak to issues the way they are. We are not here as propagandists to meander our ways out of the truth here.
I am saying, listen, I am saying that all these same things that you talk about happen in those countries you use as example. They happen in Algeria, they happen in US, they happen in UK. But the government there, even before the government talks, the journalists in those places will self-censor the image, because all of them in their training from childhood got the training that national image matters first more than anything else. And because that national image matters to them, even when those, but I mean, there was a time when rail service, there was electric shutdown in rail service, was it in Nigeria? And, you know, people were blaming the government and saying all sorts of things. But around that same week, the rail service in the UK shut down. It was only a few Nigerians who were there, who were trying to counter the narrative, you know, that these things happen worldwide, that did the video and sent back home. But on all the mainstream media in UK that week, you do not see any story about that rail service shut down there. So what I am saying in essence is that, you see, we need to do more. Our government needs to do more. But most of these things, if you are quick to compare Nigeria to other countries, like those things don't happen in other countries, is a form of ignorance, because those things actually happen in other countries, sometimes in far larger scale. But they are pressed in those other countries, and their government censor what goes out to protect the image. I mean, when there was flood in Dubai, that I think 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that massive flood.
Yeah.
Did you know that Dubai prosecuted every person that posted that flood on their social media? Dubai hunted them down.
Well, it's not a democracy. You would agree with me that Dubai is not a democracy. It's not a democracy. It's a one-party system. So it's not strange to have them behave that way like North Korea would do. So it's not strange.
Whether it's a democracy or not, the fact is that what they are doing, there is a national image, national agenda that they are focusing on. And if whatever you do as a citizen undermines that national agenda, that national security, then you have no right on benefiting from the largest of that nation. That nation that gives you, yes, it's not a democracy, but it gives you free health. It gives you free education. It gives you a lot of free things that in democracies you don't have. In US, in UK, they don't have. You know, so if you don't fit into that national agenda, you have to go. And so for me, I am saying for my Lagos, if you do not fit into the developmental agenda for my Lagos, and you are out there to make the government of Lagos look bad by doing the wrong things, which you are not supposed to.
Oh, wow. We lost Mr. Yonuga right there. We truly do hope he joins, because this is very so sensitive that we, go through some of these things and clear some of these things out. As much as it is, permitted that we should cover up our very not so comfortable part and have a way of branding Nigeria, I think it still falls on leadership at this point, because if regulations are attained to if roads are maintained the way it should be, if people are provided for on their own, all of these things would not happen. But where there is a deficit of all of these things, no responsibility from those in power, roads are not maintained, regulations are not given to drivers to ensure that the right people always are the one transporting logistics from one place to another. When all of these things are not there, you have a whole lot of conundrum, happening in Nigeria, unfortunately. I just sincerely hope that Mr. Ayonuga would join us after that little glitch. But still, from the Vanguard newspaper, while I wait for him to join back, we have on the top strip equally, there was never an Igbo coup, and that's coming from Ralph Obionha. And beside that story, we have impeachment, Pandef reconciliation, panel concludes Rivers engagement returns to Abuja. We equally have other matters there. I think I've read this. Equally, massacre of Christians. What we told the New York Times bureau chief Mark Lanes Inter Society. Remember the growing and contending issue of the New York Times reportage on a screwdriver seller in Anambra that they said irked the attack on Nigeria by Donald J. Trump. Very laughable, lots of people would say, knowing the amount of intelligence that the United States is coming with. Would they really, work with such an information from a little invincible NGO? We do not know what that talk is about, but of course, I wish Mr. Ayonuga is here so we can discuss this and more. So while we wait for him to join, this is still Enterprise Morning. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. Okay, he has just joined. Okay, beautiful. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ayonuga, for being back. Truly do apologize.
Thank you. I don't know what happened.
Yes, I think it's a network glitch and all. But let's take a look at other growing matters. Kano Governor Yusuf meets Tinubu defects to the APC today. In my opening statement, I had talked about what is wrong. Do you see anything bad about this unnecessary defection? Are we now playing party politics? What kind of politics do we play? Is governance not at the center of what we do as a people? Or is it party politics at this point? What's your take on this, please?
Well, I won't call it unnecessary defection. If you listen, there was a podcast by Ali Baba, that's Chief Atiyota Akobome, popularly known as Ali Baba in Nigeria. He attended a podcast with Femi Obong Daniels, where he talks about if you want to win election in Nigeria, excuse me, he talked about 7 governors that you must have by your side, and he mentioned them, namely CBN governor, Lagos State governor, Rivers State governor, Kano State governor, Kano, Rivers, Lagos, CBN, which other trio? He mentioned 7 governors, and one of them, prominent among them, is Kano State. So if a president who is looking for a second term is making friends and alliances across board, I won't call it unnecessary. So long as, one, these people are not forced to join. And like you have rightly said, whether Governor Yusuf joins APC or not, APC has very solid base in Kano State. But then there is nothing wrong in consolidating your base to get better chances at the election. And for the people of Kano State or the government of Kano State, they see aligning with the center as an opportunity for them to get more activities in their location and get better representation for their people. The challenge is not the federal government or the people at the presidency. The challenge now, most of the time, is at the level of the state government, who, when they now get all these extended benefits, do not allow it to trickle down to the masses in their domain. Therefore, the masses feel like, oh, what is the essence of all these defection and joining parties? For example, Every politician everywhere will, I mean, in economics, we learn scale of preferences. And so if you have limited resources, you have to scale your preferences one to what is most important and areas that are most important to you. So something might be very important, but not in an area that is very important to you at the moment. And so you might say, let me put it in the secondary. And some of the areas will feel we want to be in your primary list. And so they will want to align. And that's what I see happening in many of the 30 states that have so far defected to APC. Okay,
But don't
apart
you
from
think,
the original.
sorry to interject there, don't you think we are slowly but surely moving into a one-party state? Because the way everyone is plugged into the center, it's gradually becoming a one-party state where opposition is totally insignificant. This happened in 1965 in Ghana. Kwame Nkrumah, he happened to be responsible for Ghana's independence. At some point, he became very so famous. He wanted a one-party state and even declared himself a lifetime president. But that didn't work. So don't you think we are surely but slowly going into that direction in Nigeria with what President Bola
Well,
Tinubu is currently doing?
that didn't work. That didn't work in Ghana, not because Kwame Nkrumah failed, but because the Western axis of power at that time, don't forget that was the height of Cold War. And any country that is socialist aligned in the nature of their government, the Americans and the Europeans in the Western axis of power are always quick to find a way to destabilize such country so that those countries will not be leaning towards the socialists. And that's why Chief Obafemi Awolowo never became president in Nigeria, not because those people didn't do well by their people. In the case of what we are having right now, it is not, there is nothing like moving towards one party state. You know, if the people leading the opposition knows how to play their politics properly, many of the things, many of the people who are defecting would not have defected. Every
What do you mean by
politician,
playing their politics better? Because I truly do not understand. Playing their politics better, is it not, are they not doing the right thing, or the ruling party is deliberately fueling the problem within the opposition so they wouldn't do well? Because it's very important. We do not know why we are descending to this level in Africa. Recently, Museveni of Uganda is equally doing the same thing, stating that the opposition are not doing what they're supposed to do, while behind the curtain, he is the one contributing in the chaos.
the case of Uganda is very different from the case of Nigeria. Don't compare likes for like. I will be a foolish man to blame you for the problem that I have with my wife. No matter what you do behind the scene, uh, if I cannot coordinate my own home, I will be the greatest of fools to blame you for not being able to handle my home, not being able to handle my wife and children. So, and every democracy is hinged on two or three poles, which is the politicking, the governance, and then the general feeling of the people. You might do your politicking right, you might do your governance right. If the people do not feel you, you know, I will give you an example. There was a senator in my district sometimes ago. His name is he was a former deputy governor in Ogun State, Sheriff Bengakaka. Sheriff Bengakaka, you know, that's his name. Very good man, very wonderful man. But do you know why people didn't vote for him for second term? Despite a lot of great works that he did, it was because people had this perception of, oh, he is stingy about him. And when I went and investigated him personally, I've never met him, I've never sat down with him one on one. So it's not like I'm praising him because I know him on a personal level. But the truth is the truth, especially for someone who has done his own investigation. When I investigated him personally, what I discovered is that this man do not believe in frivolities, do not believe in wasteful spending.
Which is a good
So
thing.
he believes in, yes, he believes in giving education, you know, priority, giving health, and you know all those social welfare that will, on the long run, benefit the people more priorities. So when politicians come and say my mother died, or my wife is, or I want to marry a second wife, support me, and he doesn't support them, so they term him as stingy. But those who go to him and say my children school fees, or they need to be paid, bursary for students, he will do all of that. And because he doesn't make noise about doing it, people term him stingy. So why am I using this example? I'm saying that politics in a democracy stands on a tripod of politicking, governance, and the general feeling of the people. He did his politicking right. That's why he won the first time. He was doing well in governance while he was in office, because he was doing the things that will matter, that will, on the long run, help his senatorial district produce men and women of timber and caliber. But you see, the feeling of the people, he wasn't getting it right.
Okay, because he
And so
wasn't, there wasn't no sign of profligacy at this point. Is that what you're saying? That was why he lost
at
out.
that time, yes, and that is the feeling of the people. So the same thing in
But does
every
that make it
democracy.
right? I would love us to speak like people who truly understand good from bad. Does that truly make it right that he was not elected
in this
because
world,
he has refused
what
to
you need to
give
get
people
right,
what they do not need?
what you need to get right in this world is that there is neither good nor bad. There is neither right nor wrong. There is understanding the season and playing along with the season. That's why, for those who are Christians, the Bible says that the race is not usually for the swift, nor bread even for the wise, nor the battle for the strong. Why? Time and chances happen to them all. If you don't want time and chances to happen to you, you have to be like the sons of Issachar who understood time. And if there is anything you must give to this president in Nigeria now, is that the first thing he understood is time more than anybody else. That's why
Time
while
for what exactly? Because that is not the story
hold
on
on
the
now.
streets of Nigeria.
I'm still explaining.
Yes.
The person who dey carry wife come meet, the stretch net. Eh? You see, when he finished governance as the governor of Lagos State, there were times he was offered the Minister of Finance. He didn't collect it. There were times he could have contested for the presidency, but he was bidding his time, and he waited and allowed others. And when it came to a time that he saw that everything aligns properly for him, even when his party didn't support him, he went to Abeokuta and said, Emi Lokan, it is my turn. And there is nobody, no politician of conscience, both in the opposition and in the ruling party at that time, who don't agree with him. They might
And do you
come
think
on
that is
TV and say,
democratic? Do you think that is
yes, it is.
democratic, Mr. Ayonuga?
Yes, it is. It is
When someone
democratic.
says it is his turn, not the turn of the
Yes.
people, not the turn of
No,
Nigerians, but his personal
it is
turn.
his turn.
Don't you think that's selfish?
You see, if you don't know where you are going to, you will not be able to lead people to where they are going to, because it starts from self-awareness. Abraham Lincoln in 1845 or so, they asked him, he went to church. They were asking people, how many people wants to go to heaven? Everybody raised their hands. Eh? Abraham Lincoln didn't raise his hands, and the pastor called him out in the congregation. He said, well, I've not been to heaven. None of these people have been to heaven. I don't know about heaven, whether it's sure for anybody. But if there is anywhere I want to go to, I want to go to the White House and lead this country. And because he was self-assured, he knows what he wants, and he followed through, he was able to get there. And because he knows why he wants to go there, he was able to deliver for the people. And that is why, till today, he is one of the best presidents America ever had. I mean, that
So,
is being celebrated till today.
yes, but
Now,
do you
while
think, yes,
he was governing,
sorry,
hold on
yes,
now, hold
okay,
on.
yeah.
Sorry. While he was president, do you not know that not everybody will agree with his policy? That it was during his presidency that they had the civil war. That people said the white Southerners said they don't want to abolish slave trade, and he said slave trade must go. And then there was civil war. So not everybody will agree with him. But on the hindsight, they are now adjudging him as the best president that the country has ever had. So it is not new that people will not agree with President Bola Tinubu right now, that people will not like President Bola. It is normal, and it is part of what makes democracy tick. It is what makes democracy successful, because if we all like him, then he will likely misbehave. So we must put him on his toe. But give it another 10, 15 years after he must have left office, then hindsight, which is Vision 2020, will always give you that feeling that, oh, okay, we might not like him while he was there, but actually, this man is good for the country. And for those of us who don't need to wait for hindsight, we know that as harsh as the economic policy might seem to some of us right now, it is draining the swamp, which on the long run is going to be beneficial to all in the country.
Yes. All right. My final question, just before we move to our conversation for today. Do you honestly think, with what you have seen on the streets of Nigeria, with what you've seen people talk about, you feel the pulse of the people, I would love to believe, more than President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would do, because he is at the top of the echelon and might not know what's happening on the streets. Do you think if there is a genuine, free and fair election in 2027, that would not be centered on party politics and having governors to do what they know how to do best? Do you think if there's a free and fair election, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would have an overwhelming vote of Nigerians?
First and foremost, what do governors know how to do best? Because
we all know what they know how to do best. That's the reason. Lots of them are plugged into the center. Don't you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. By the way, I'm not a roadside politician. In the last 6 to 7 weeks, I've been touring my Ogun East senatorial district with my senator, distinguished Senator Benga Daniel, on his midterm assessment, midterm tour of his local government and assessment. And from what I see from the lips of the people, from the pulse of the people, is that, at least I may not speak for the whole country, because I won't speak for where I have not been. I would only rely on newspaper reports for that. But in the entire Southwest, I don't think the opposition will have 10%, if going by what the people are saying. What the people.
So what are the people saying?
There is no need for anybody to manipulate any election or to do any gimmick. If we go to a free and fair poll in the Southwest come 2027, I don't think the opposition will have 10%. And I'm saying this because I go out to political rallies regularly, not APC political rally alone, to Accord political rally, to PDP political rally. I am everywhere with everybody. And I am seeing the pulse. Now, when it comes to governorship election, State House of Assembly election, it's a different kettle of fish entirely from state to state across the Southwest. But when it comes to the presidency, I can tell you, if opposition gets more than 10%, that opposition rigged. That opposition stole votes. That is what I see on the streets. It doesn't matter whether you believe me or you don't, or people out there believe or accept. But I am telling you, from the point of view, just this last Sunday, I was at a political rally. The Sunday before it, I was at another political rally. On Saturday, I was at another political rally in another state in the Southwest. So I am saying that I go out regularly, mingle with people, and feeling their pulse. That is my opinion.
All right, I would love to agree with you, and hope that the people that you have felt their pulse still know that inflation is still very high. It hasn't gone down before like what it used to be before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took power. The cost of fuel is still very high. I love to believe those that you have felt their pulse truly do understand all of this and not being emotional about some of these things. We hope and pray for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu that that God would help him understand the true pulse of Nigerians and know that democracy is about the people and not about himself, his cronies and people at the corridor of power. That's what we hope so. And we love to let you know that Mr. Yonugo will still be here on our main conversation when we return. Lagos gets a 4.4 trillion Naira 2026 budget goals and plans. In the beat, Enterprise morning it is. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Thank you so very much for joining us. This is still Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. Let's get talking on our main conversation for today, where we have it that the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Monday signed the 4.4 trillion Naira 2026 Appropriation Bill into law, marking the formal commencement of the state's fiscal plan for the year. The signing ceremony was held at the conference room of Lagos House, Alausa Secretariat, Ikeja, following the passage of the budget by the Lagos State House of Assembly in January. The budget, christened the Budget of Shared Prosperity, authorizes the expenditure of 4.4 trillion Naira for the 2026 fiscal year. We have that dignitaries at the event included Deputy Governor Dr. Obafemi Hamzat, members of the State Executive Council, Head of Service Bode Agoro, lawmakers and other key stakeholders. Governor Sanwo-Olu explained that the budget is aimed at fostering inclusive growth and improving the quality of life for residents. He said it is built on 4 core pillars: a human-centered approach, a modern infrastructure, a vibrant economy, and efficient governance. Let's get talking. I still have Mr. Gbenga Ayonuga. Thank you so very much, sir, for hanging on. We truly do appreciate your time, now and always.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's get talking on the 4.4 trillion budget for Lagos State, which is the biggest of them all in Nigeria. Of course, it is okay to say Lagos, a city that should be called the country, over 25 million people living in there. 4.4 trillion is worthwhile. But do you think the money speaks to the extent of the functionality and efficiency of leadership in the state?
Well, that question needs to be broken down and maybe re-asked in a different way. But if I want to answer it directly, just as you have asked it, that money speaks to the efficiency of governance in the state. And I think that money is not even enough to carry the burden of governance that is expected of a mega city like Lagos. If you check the 2026 budget of 4.4 trillion and you put it side by side with countries that have population of 5 million and above, countries like Finland, countries like I think Angola is more than 25 million. Countries like Finland, like Denmark, like Switzerland, if you check their budget for the year, you will see that Lagos fairly, uses the little resources at its disposal to achieve much more than other areas of the world that have the same number of people living in that kind of geographical region. For example, Singapore has like the landmass of Lagos, and of course the population also of Lagos. But you will see that their budget for 2024, I'm trying to get the exact. They are still trying to deliver their budget on February 12th, But if you go back to their 2025 budget, have a glimpse of how much they spend. Their budget for 2025 was $143.1 billion. So I can't do the maths offhand, but I know that that's way more than the budget of Lagos. So, and if you see what Singapore is doing with its 1.3 billion, and you see, and you compare it, I think our own 4.4 trillion should be less than. I think 1 billion is 1.4 or 1.5 trillion, you know. So that's about approximately $3 trillion. I mean, $3 billion. So if you put the budget side by side, and these are because I'm comparing Singapore with Lagos because Singapore has the same, almost just a little bit bigger than Lagos in terms of land mass and in terms of population. I think it's just also a little bit bigger than Lagos because, in fact, it's not even up to Lagos. Their population for 2025 was 6.11 million people compared to 25 million in Lagos. And they have, for that 6.11 million people, a budget of $143 billion dollars. So if you compare apples for apples, you will see that yes, we might not be, we might still have, as you know, normally as citizens, all of us, including myself, have this natural mindset that politicians are thief, whatever they budget, they will steal some part of it and all the rest. But irrespective of that mindset, which is biased, which is flawed, irrespective of that mindset, if you compare apples for apples, you will see that Lagos State is still trying a lot with the little resources, that they are budgeting. Compared to other states in Nigeria, yes, it's a mega budget, but compared to other mega cities that stand toe to toe with Lagos in the world, you will see that that budget is still even a minute fraction for what they are doing. And if we look at what Lagos has been doing in recent time in terms of the continuity of the developmental goal that have been set since 1999, that they continue to develop on the template and expand it, we will see that Lagos deserves every trillion, every kobo that it is getting and that it is making. I mean, just last year, December, Lagos organized the first electric, electric boat race, and I think that's the first in the whole of Africa. And that race, I couldn't lay my hands on how much it generated in terms of income for the state, but I know that it generated a lot of income for the state, tourism income and otherwise. And if there is continuity, the income it will generate can only continue to get bigger. And for some of these novel ideas like this to be propounded and they are able to carry it out, they need huge budgets. And thank God that unlike other states that depend on the federal force basically for their sustenance, to be able to to be able to perform their budget, Lagos does not need to wait for federal force to be able to perform its budget because if you look at, I'm trying to break down the uh, allocation, you know, um, allocation for Lagos from the federal force in the last year, and you compare it uh, with their total income and then expenditure, you see that what come uh, from the federal force is very, I won't say it's very minor, but at least it's not huge. It's not what they depend on. And if you compare what Lagos contributes to the federal force compared to what it gets back, Lagos gets back less than 29 or less than 30% of what it contributes to federal force, whereas some other states get like 340 something percent, 500 and something percent of what they contribute to federal force. So if you look at it from all this angle, I think we should give kudos to Lagos State. Yes, we should continue to pressure them that we want more, we want to see more, we want them to do more. We want especially transparency in this budget. We the citizen need to know exactly how much is earmarked for what in every line item, so that those of us who are interested in reading through, in knowing through one by one, will be able to get this information at our fingertips, and will be able to work with it, not walk blindly. Yes, we can demand for those transparency, but then we mustn't say while we are waiting for that and think that, oh, blindly say, oh, that money is too much. What are they doing with it? Because if you compare Lagos side by side, in fact, give an average civil state civil servant from many of the states in Nigeria, many of the remaining 36 states in Nigeria, they would rather prefer to work in Lagos State Civil Service than in their various state civil service. I mean, just this week, I think yesterday, the Federal Capital staffs, the civil servants in the Federal Capital Territory, they are going on strike because of welfare issues that are unresolved. Have you ever heard of that in Lagos for the last 10, 15 years? you know. So it shows to you that to a certain extent, the state is working and they are defending the budget which they are saying they want to spend. Could they do better? Yes. Could we get more transparent and better highlight of budget? Yes. But with what we is available and we compare apples for apples with other states in Nigeria, we must give kudos to them.
All right. I think it's interesting that you talked about transparency at this point, and I think it's equally very important that we note some very salient points equally. That the 4.4 trillion budget for 2026. The truth is that the recurring survival cost in that budget is about 40 to 50%, and the reason is because much of it goes to servicing debt and many other things, and not so much of a transformation for Lagos State. It's important that you compare apples for apples. And the question is, do you think that we have that transparency in leadership as compared to maybe cities like Sao Paulo and all others? Do you think we'll have that leadership transparency to have transformed Lagos from what it used to be, right, to what it is? Lagos was a colonial city, or a city that was the first to have electricity even before some European countries. So do you think there is this sustainability of leadership transparency as we have it today in Lagos?
I would think you will compare Lagos to countries like Brussels, like Helsinki, and not Sao Paulo when you are talking about transparency. Because if you are talking about transparency, I don't see the difference between Lagos and Sao Paulo. Maybe you don't know about the Brazilian city and the Brazilian government, how it runs, almost partially like a mafia state. That's why you will compare, because if you are saying you are comparing us with Sao Paulo, you are saying we shouldn't be as transparent as even they are trying to be right now. But if you compare to Brussels, to Helsinki, to some of those very transparent countries where at the tap of your finger you can search for their budgetary information and get it, well, it's a different case. Now, I, for one, want to see more transparency. I want the FOIB to be respected more in Lagos State. But when you say budget goes for servicing of debts, what were those debts incurred upon? And are people enjoying the benefits for which those debts were incurred at the time they were incurred? For example, the Blue Rail line that has been functional now, I mean, the railways that have returned to many parts of Lagos, unlike before now, it was run through debt. So if they are paying it back, I don't see anything wrong with it.
But can you compare it? Can you compare that debt, which was used to build the blue lines and the red lines and other lines? Can you compare it to to Lagosians taking advantage of it? Because when we talk about transportation in Lagos, it's less than 0.1% of what happens when it comes to transportation in Lagos.
Uh, I doubt if you travel through Lagos very much. Maybe you go from home to work and that's all. But if you travel, my job actually, my 9 to 5 job actually requires me to travel through the length and breadth of Lagos, from Epe to Badagry to Ikorodu to all the remotest corners of Lagos. And if you see the projects that are even carried out by local government in Lagos State, it is some projects that local government chairmen are carrying out in Lagos State that state governors in other states are celebrating as their projects for 4 years. And you will see local government carry out those same projects in less than 3 years. Because don't forget that the local governments do their election every 3 years. And so that goes to show to you that Lagos, compared to other states who are also owing debt, the people are actually benefiting hugely. I mean, there are many cities, many inner city roads that are tarred in Lagos, tarred by both local government and state government collaboration. Just last week, I think, was it Tuesday or so, I was going to Badagry and I've seen the level of work going on in that axis. When the Akran of Badagry joined his ancestor, we had to go and pay our homage, and I saw the level of works going on in that axis. If you go from Pagba to Mero to Epe to name all the areas, even inside the Kurudu, there is a place called Ijede, Berigbe, Igbokuta, areas of Ikurudu. When I went to Berigbe over Christmas period, I thought I was on a street in the UK or in France with with how beautiful those roads are. It is not enough. We want more, no doubt. But if you compare apples for apples with other state governments across the nation, you will see that these people are still doing better. Yes, we want more transparency. We want, for example, to know how much each road is constructed per kilometer. We want those level of transparency, which we are not getting yet, no doubt. And of course, I would always have that we need more of such transparency, because maybe if we have such level of transparency, maybe I wouldn't be praising them to the high heaven as much as I'm doing. But the fact is that if when you talk of transparency too, it's not just a Lagos thing. It's like a court in the entire nation, from Ogun to Oyo to Rivers to Kano to everywhere. So we want that transparency across board, from the east to the west of the country. But Lagos is my basic primary constituency, and so I want it here. But with what we do in Lagos, with what is achieved in Lagos, if Ogun State, where I come from, achieves half of what Lagos achieves every year, I will be singing and dancing to the praise of my governor every day. But despite the proximity and closeness to Lagos, they couldn't even achieve maybe one third of it. So, going by that analogy, there are so many things that we want improvement on. They can do better, but I still give kudos to them for what they are doing while waiting for that better to be done.
All right, so let's take a look at one other, issue here, just before we call it a wrap. A displacement of Lagosians. Oworoshoki is one of those areas. Currently, Makoko equally is one of those areas. People living there, thousands of families have been displaced and not asked to relocate somewhere else. What was your take on this? Do you think there is transparency in such displacements?
Well, it depends on what you mean by transparency in such displacement, because what one thing Nigerians forget is that government in this country don't wake up in time. So government will give you warning for years. Eh? People will manipulate that warning. Let me add to the list. You've mentioned Makoko, you've mentioned Oworonso. Let me also add First Park to the list. You know, all those First Park. Did you know that many of these people, in some of the case, in Oworonsoki case, it's a different kettle of fish. There are, because I know a little bit about that story intently. But in many of these places, notices have been given, sometimes as far back as 10 years ago, 15 years ago. People will go and lobby the government. And for political expediencies, the government will relax again and say, okay, we'll do it next year. Then the new government that comes will say, I want to do this thing. And then they will give notice out. But people will not listen. So when you are talking about transparency, it goes both ways from the side of the people, because many have gotten more than one notice from the government to relocate from that place. But it was after they got the notice that they even built mega structures in those places, thinking that maybe by the time government sees mega structure, government will not be able to carry out its threat. But there will always be a Pharaoh that does not know Joseph every time. And so when that time comes, you see government doing the needful. So when you are talking about transparency, there are so many layers to it. Yes, there are rumors that government officials are the one taking over the place for themselves and blah blah blah. But all those stories, you have to take them with a pinch of salt, because there is no direct or indirect evidence to confirm any of those stories. I've had them countless of time. Now, for the people, I mean, in the Oworo situation, for example, my church, my church was affected. We have to relocate.
Oh, I think we lost Mr. Ayonoga again. I do not know why we have this glitch happening now and then, but I truly do hope that he joins so we can conclude on this, and hopefully, we can set the record straight. Lagos, of course, is a mega city. Lagos used to be a crown colony. Lagos was one of those cities amongst other crown colonies in 1918 that had electricity even before some European countries. Lots of people would have expected that from that time up until now, Lagos will be possibly looking like most of the European countries we truly do admire. But has it lived up to that space? It's the big question that we ask ourselves. With the informal transport system riddled all over the place, the inefficiency in regulations, especially with lands and all, which is still it's still a very big problem in Lagos. Do you think we would ever get it right and maybe rewrite the story of Lagos State as a crown colony or former crown colony that used to be the beehive of every European? That is the big question. I truly do hope Ms. Ayonoga will join us just so we can conclude on that thought. This is still Enterprise Morning. We're very so glad to have everyone join us today. Wherever it is you are watching or streaming from around the world, we say welcome to our primetime show right here on Enterprise Television. Please do well to always follow us. You can subscribe at Enterprise TV7 when you have the opportunity to do that, because every single day, every episode we bring to you breathtaking conversations that will definitely help change your narrative and equally help you see reasons why you should see Nigeria from another light and appreciate what we have, and equally have the opportunity of lending your voice to things that you think are not working well. Mr. Ayonuga, I'd love to believe if he's here. Is he still here with us? Okay, so just as we continue to wait for him, so we can conclude on this. This is Enterprise Morning. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back.